Good morning, metalheads of the internet, and welcome to a very special episode of the Metal Meltdown. A few weeks ago, in the community tab of this channel, I asked you, who should be the subject of a reviewing every album video? Should we focus on Death, the godfathers of death metal, or Mayhem, the godfathers of black metal? And to my somewhat genuine surprise, the overall consensus boiled down to, fuck Mayhem. We don't want to talk about Mayhem. We want to talk about goddamn motherfucking death. So, with this in mind, by popular demand, today we are reviewing every single studio album ever made from the one, the only, Death. Couple things to clarify right off the bat. We are going to be focusing primarily on Death's 7 studio albums. I don't care about EPs, demos, live albums, compilations, nor am I really interested in talking about anything that may have spawned out of Death, like records from Cynic or Control Denied. I would like to focus exclusively on those 7 studio albums. Second thing to clarify, as per the norm, this is not a tier list, this is not a ranked list. We are going to talk about each album in order of release, and I will give a score out of 5 for each album. And finally, maybe just a bit of a warning, shall we say? I mean, I don't think I have any controversial or hot, spicy takes coming at you in this video. I think we can all agree that the Death discography is, even at its worst, still pretty fucking good. But people do tend to get very passionate about this band, as I saw in that aforementioned poll. So, maybe prepare for the fact that maybe I'm going to disagree with you, and maybe not every single album is going to be a literal 5 out of 5. Not just because I simply don't think every album is a 5 out of 5, but also because, let's be honest, if that were the case, this would be a very fucking boring video to make and to watch. So let's get ourselves officially started by looking at the band's debut album, Scream Bloody Gore, released May 25th, 1987, via Combat Records. Holy shit, this is almost 35 years old. That is fucking insane to think about. Holy shit. So at this point in the late 1980s, death metal as a genre is still very much in its infancy. Bands like Morbid Angel, Cannibal Corpse, Obituary, they're around, they're touring and making demos, but none have yet to release a debut studio album, and I think the closest thing to a full-blown death metal album, aside from Scream Bloody Gore at the time, would be Seven Churches, released in 1985. Though in retrospect, honestly, I would argue that Seven Churches is closer to a thrash metal album in tone and execution than a death metal album, but hey, that's an argument for another fucking video. And as such, by many, it's considered a masterpiece. And that statement, I have to disagree with right off the bat. There's definitely a lot to admire and appreciate about Scream Bloody Gore. No arguing otherwise. I'm just not convinced that this is a bona fide epic. I'm not convinced that it holds up as well as others may argue. For one, the music itself can often feel kind of one-note and derivative at times. This is nowhere near as cohesive or well-crafted or as progressive as the material that Death would very quickly be known for, nor is it even, in my opinion, on the same level as other death metal classics like Altars of Madness or Butchered at Birth. It's definitely a very violent and chaotic record. The production is very raw. Chuck Schuldiner's vocals are just fucking insane. But despite that, it's not always the most memorable. In fact, off the top of my head, I'm really only remembering a few songs across the entire record. Like, honestly, there's just nothing on this album that the likes of Possessed and Creator and Slayer and many other bands super influential to early death metal did not do objectively better at that time, nor is there anything on this album that Death themselves did not do objectively better later on in their discography. I would still give this a 3 out of 5. I do think there are still some pretty good songs, even if they lack the cohesion and innovation of other death material, and there is certainly a vigor and enthusiasm, a sheer brutality to this music that is extremely endearing even nearly 35 years later. But all in all, I would say that this is probably my least favorite in the Def discography. So, yeah, 3 to 5. I guess all things considered, maybe not the most enthusiastic. Definitely gonna get in a lot of shit for that right off the bat. I can already fucking tell. Next up, we have the band's sophomore studio album, Leprosy, released August 12th, 1988. And immediately I see this as a big improvement on Scream Bloody Gore. I will say off the bat, we've lost a little bit of the rawness, the sheer brutality, the thrashy underbite of Scream Bloody Gore, but in its place, we have a much more cohesive kind of sound, you know? The band is more unified, the sound is much stronger, much more dynamic. The production is actually pretty fantastic on this album. We're seeing a little bit of that Scott Burns death metal production that would be popularized throughout the late 80s and into the early and mid 90s. There are a lot of great twists and turns, a lot of subtle melodies, a lot of great guitar playing. I feel pretty comfortable saying that some of the best old school death metal perhaps ever conceived is on this album alone, to the point where I genuinely challenge you not to headbang and not to sing along to tracks like Left to Die or Pull the Plug or Choke on It. They remain every bit as powerful and ridiculously entertaining today as they were back in 1988. A true death metal cynic could make the argument that the album is a touch repetitive as it goes along, and I suppose you're not objectively incorrect, but you are missing the fucking point if you do make that argument. Much like Altars of Madness and Butchered at Birth, Leprosy shows old school death metal at its most powerful and at its most provocative without getting stupid, without getting ridiculous, or without getting too full of itself. So I would give this a very enthusiastic 4 out of 5, leaning towards a 4.5 out of 5. Yeah, I really got nothing more to say about this thing. It's just a certified banger from start to fucking finish. Listen to it if you haven't already. Next up, we have Spiritual Healing, released February 10th, 1990 via Combat Records. In some ways, Spiritual Healing is the logical evolution of Leprosy. I mean, it is a more technical record as far as the actual written music is concerned, but it is still aesthetically still very much in that old school death metal realm. Where Spiritual Healing differs from Leprosy is that it's a much more politically and socially active and aware record by comparison, and the production is a lot cleaner and a lot more dynamic. On top of the more angular, technical, and melodic guitar playing from both Chuck and newcomer James Murphy, the album is lyrically a lot more bitter and poignant. It's talking about genetics and abortion and televangelism, and in the process crafting a pretty bitter critique of like organized religion and American Christianity. And all of this makes for a much more urgent record, especially in comparison to Scream Bloody Gore and Leprosy. You really do get the vibe that Chuck has a lot on his mind, and death metal is how he has chosen to get it out. I don't really have an issue with any one song on here. I do think there are some sections that could be trimmed a little or better edited, but all in all, I think the music is just pretty fucking killer. My biggest concern would be maybe the vocal production. I mean, I like how beefy and thick the guitars are. I like how tight the percussion is, but the vocals do at times feel kind of removed from the album. I don't know, I'm not really sure how to explain it, but when I was re-listening to this album the other night, the first thing I thought was, wow, the vocals are really high in the mix, and they're not quite as fierce as on previous records. I don't know. It could be because of the very specific version I was listening to. This album, as well as every other Death album, let's be honest, has been reissued and remastered multiple fucking times over the years. Relapse Records gotta milk that fucking Chuck Schuldiner money. Gotta literally beat that literal dead horse, because we gotta make our money. But regardless, it is ultimately an issue, and it is one that briefly brought me out of the music, so I think I would maybe lower this from a 4 to like a super enthusiastic 3.5 out of 5. Still ultimately a really strong record, one I would happily recommend to anyone looking for some classic death metal with a little bit of a more intelligent and technical edge to it, but without going like full-blown tech death, without going into like atheist or cynic territory. Although, speaking of Cynic, this does bring us to Human, released October 22nd, 1991, Def's only album to feature Paul Masvidal and Sean Reinhart of Cynic fame. The album also features Steve DiGiorgio of Autopsy and Testament fame on bass, so, you know, basically the best fucking lineup on the goddamn planet. And yeah, spoiler alert, we've pretty much reached the point in Def's discography where every album is pretty damn near close to a masterpiece, and Human is no exception. This album is fucking incredible. It's everything that spiritual healing was trying to do, amplified to the next fucking level. It's more provocative, it's more intelligent, it's more introspective, the production is amazing, the musicianship is absolutely insane. Some of the best guitar, drum, and bass work from Paul, Sean, and Steve respectively. The instrumental track Cosmic Sea in particular is maybe one of the best instrumental metal songs I think I've ever heard on a record. Like, it's just fucking fantastic. Chuck sounds great on this thing as well. The vocal production is much better on here. And in general, he just sounds so inspired and motivated. Like, this is definitely the most urgent I think we've heard him so far. And it results in so much awesome fucking material, from Flattening Emotions to Suicide Machines to Vacant Planets, Lack of Comprehension, the aforementioned Cosmic Sea. Every single song on here just absolutely fucking kills. With the exception of the bonus track, which is a cover of Kiss's God of Thunder. Yeah. I mean, I don't hate it, but, like, I'm not really super into it either. Like, this is pretty much the point where I just turn the album off and I'm like, fuck this. I don't give a fuck. If it weren't for this one track, I would honestly give this a 5 out of 5, but hey, who the fuck is gonna argue with a 4.5 out of 5? Am I fucking right? Am I fucking right, guys? Who am I kidding? Some of y'all will absolutely fucking argue with that. I can see it clear as day already. Next up, we have Individual Thought Patterns, released June 22nd, 1993, via Relativity Media. Scott Burns has been brought in to produce the record. Paul Masvidal and Sean Reinhart are out, but good news, Andy LaRocque and Gene Hoglan are in, which means more killer production, more killer talent, more killer music, more killer. Just killer. Everything's killer. What more do you want me to fucking say? While it is lyrically much angrier, it is continuing pretty much in the footsteps of the aforementioned Human, and as such, there's really nothing I can say about this album that I haven't already said about Human. It is just a fantastic fucking record. Just tons of great songs, man. Mentally Blind, Trapped in a Corner, the album's title track, Overactive Imagination, the album's fantastic closing number, The Philosopher. What really blows my mind is that Andy didn't actually, like, rehearse at all. Like, he didn't pay attention to any of the written material and just went into the studio and improvised everything, from what I understand. And he just knocks it out of the fucking park. It's kind of fascinating because you see a real unity between Andy, between Gene, and between Steve. And it makes me really want to see some kind of supergroup between these three. Like, holy shit, they all sound amazing together. I mean, I guess to be fair, Gene and Steve are both now members of Testament, but even so, imagine what these three could do together if they made, like, some original fucking tunes. It would be incredible. Get that guy from Deaf to All who scarily looks and sounds a lot like Chuck Schuldiner. I would pay so much money for that. Yeah, 4.5 out of 5 again for me. What more do you want me to say, folks? It's just fucking fantastic. This and Individual Thought Patterns, on top of having pioneered technical death metal, arguably remain some of the best tech death records ever fucking conceived. And I will fight anyone who tries to tell me otherwise. Next up, we have Symbolic, released March 21st, 1995 via Roadrunner Records. Oh my god, I almost forgot that there was a time when Roadrunner made quality fucking music. Holy shit. Def has always had a bit of a revolving lineup, but with this album in particular, there have been a lot of changes behind the scenes. Andy LaRocque is gone, Scott Burns is gone, Steve DiGiorgio, who's actually stuck around for a few albums at this point, is gone as well, and Gene Hoglan is pretty much on his way out. But Chuck, God bless his heart, is clearly unfazed by all of this. In fact, if anything, he's using this as an opportunity to continue to push Def into more progressive and melodic territory. The songs are bigger, bolder, funkier, lengthier, more progressive, more intelligent, more introspective as well. There's a little bit of a classic prog meets like technical death metal underbite to this whole thing, resulting in some really unpredictable material with some really dynamic performances. Like, I don't know what was going through Chuck's mind at this point in Def's history, but holy shit, whatever it was, it fueled him 110 fucking percent. And of course, as a result of all of this, so much killer fucking material. Oh my god. From Zero Tolerance to Misanthrope, A Thousand Eyes, Perennial Quest, the album's title track, which may very well be one of the best album openers, like, ever. Like, holy shit, it's so good. Yeah, another 4.5 out of 5, fucking honestly. It's another incredible album. What more do you want me to fucking say, god damn it? I swear to God, you could just make a drinking game at this point. Like, take a shot every time I say that something is killer. Take a shot every time I give something a 4.5 out of 5. Do it. Rewatch this video, have fun, get fucking toasted while we talk about death. Why not? It's not like you have anything better to do today. If you did, you wouldn't be watching this, so got you there. And finally, this brings us to the Sound of Perseverance, the band's final studio album, released August 31st, 1998, and honestly, my favorite fucking album from Def, and maybe even just one of my favorite albums of all time. Holy shit. This thing truly is a fucking masterpiece. You heard me. I fucking said it. I don't regret it. I'm not taking it back. I fucking love every goddamn second. Every minuscule moment of this record. There is not a single riff, a single hook, a single guitar solo, a single drum beat, a single second of noise, of sonic existence that does not absolutely rock my goddamn world. We have reached the point where Chuck Schuldiner has said, fuck it. We're going full-blown prog, we're going full-blown death, we're going full-blown metal, all at the same goddamn time. The riffs are gigantic. The production is just fucking insane. Everything has the weight of a literal mountain. Chuck is consistently unhinged on here, unapologetically unhinged, not just in his lyrics, not just in his guitar playing, but also in his vocals. He has never sounded this manic, this chaotic, this crazed, this agonizing. From the angular and unpredictable groove-laden metal of Bite the Pain, to the stunning neoclassical beauty of Voices of the Soul, to the sheer blistering brutality of the album's cover of Painkiller from Judas Priest. Now, y'all know me. I'm not into cover songs, and Painkiller in particular is kind of an important record for me. The name Metal Meltdown alone comes from Metal Meltdown from that same album, but I feel pretty comfortable saying that this cover is, at the very least, as good as the Judas Priest classic. Chuck just completely outdoes himself on this thing with some of his best vocal performances to date, some of his most insane guitar playing. The opening scream, coupled with those super crunchy riffs, is nothing short of fucking orgasmic. God, and we haven't even mentioned like Spirit Crusher, Scavenger of Human Sorrow, The Flesh and the Power It Holds. Every single song on here, if we were to review them individually, would all receive a 5 out of 5. They are all incredible. And you know what? With that in mind, I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna fucking do it, dude. 5 out of 5. I think this is a fucking perfect album. Like, it feels as if everything else in Def's discography had to happen in order to build up to this. Every mistake they've made and everything they've done right. It's like Chuck was taking notes the whole time. And then he went down to make Sound of Perseverance and he went, all right, I've done my homework. Time to fucking destroy the exam. And he did it. 100%. A++, dude. Holy fucking shit. I love it, man. I just love every single goddamn thing about this record. It's amazing. And voila! That is it. Reviewing every Def album. Holy shit. This was fun. It was nice to do a video of this style where there wasn't one album that I just completely fucking railed against, you know? That I just didn't completely bury under a sea of agony and misery and alcohol-fueled hatred. Like, every album in this video is pretty fucking good. Like, Def is one of those bands where even their worst album is still pretty fucking good. And there aren't really a lot of other bands that I can say have that, you know? Like, maybe Baroness, Mastodon. I would argue Gorguts, come to think of it. I want to argue Carcass, but, you know, Swan Song unfortunately exists. I would also personally argue At the Gates, much to the dismay of Metal Trenches, but c'est la vie, we're just going to have to agree to disagree on that. Let me know what your favorite Def record is. Let me know what your least favorite Def record is. Let me know what your favorite songs are. Let me know what bands you want to talk about in the future. Do you want to talk about Mayhem or maybe somebody else? Like, I don't know, just spitballing here, Pantera or Ozzy or Napalm Death or Cannibal Corpse or I don't fucking know. You tell me, dude. Press this button right here to subscribe so you get updates on the Metal Meltdown fucking immediately. And as always, you have yourself a fantastic fucking day.